Okay. Good afternoon to those of you in Europe or Africa, and good morning to, I suspect there are some people with us now from Brazil. Welcome to this webinar for the Water JPI Joint Call 2017. My name is Johannes Holmen. I work at the Research Council of Norway. I run the Joint Call Secretariats with Per Bakke Hansen, a colleague of mine. He is not here at the moment, but he's also part of our team. I would like to also mention two colleagues in the Water JPI from who are sitting in Paris. I'm myself situated in Oslo in Norway at the moment, but Dominique and Nuria is following the webinar from Paris, and they will participate in parts of the presentation and during the questions and answers session afterwards. Could you please give me a word through chat, Dominic or Nuria, that you can hear me okay? Okay, that's good. Good to know. Then I suppose the rest of you can hear me as well. Okay. First, little quick presentation of the webinar system. This is an online system, as you have noticed, with a little program. There is audio available only to the presenters. You can hear what we say, but we cannot hear anything you say. I sent out a message here, I can hear you, but that was only, that you maybe have read, but that was only meant to go to those in Paris. So I cannot hear any of the attendees other than those in Paris. So the way to communicate with us, or with me to be more specific, is to submit questions. Go into the questions bar that you can see on in the program window, and then you can just type in a question and send, and then we will get it up and we'll try to answer those in the question and answer round that we have after the presentation. Do not use this to report technical problems. There's a good chance that we cannot solve it right now. It will probably just take too long time to go through this. For those of you who have problems and don't find out of them, we will publish the presentation and the questions and answers after the webinar. Within a day or two, it will be online through the Water JPI homepage. So you won't lose anything. That's the point here, anyway. I'm figuring about 20-25 minutes for the presentation. It took a little longer for the first webinar. I'll try to cut it down a little bit. It was a bit too long. And then up to about 1.5 hours for questions and answers afterwards. You may start right away sending in questions all the way to the end. Note that questions that are very specific to national regulations will be forwarded to the corresponding NCP. So it might be wise of you to just send them in the first place to your national contact point instead of here if it's related to those. Also, if there are some questions that are very specific and not general enough, we might answer them by email after the webinar. Okay, short introduction to the JPI calls. After the JPIs were started, a big part of the reason for starting the JPIs was to increase the public-to-public partnership, to align national strategies of research, to overcome fragmentation and make research efforts fill out gaps instead of doubling up or tripling up where there's already been done extensive research. One example is to join forces to launch joint calls. This may be with or without the European Commission contributions. Last year there was a co-fund call with a European Commission top-up. This year it's only with the national fundings by themselves. And this year's call is part of the International Cooperation for Water. Short for that is IC for Water. Through that we have decided that we would like to make ways of try to bring forward research that can help implement the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. So that's a major part of the topic of this year's call. The title is Water Resource Management in Support of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And there are two challenges that I put forward in the call announcement. Challenge 1 deals with multiple pressure effects on ecosystems and ecosystem services, and asks for ways to come up with effective mitigation or adaptation tools. And this should be seen in light of the UN SDGs and how they can be, how the targets of the UN SDGs can easier be reached. Challenge 2 is more specifically directed at the UN SDG 6, which is the one about drinking water and sanitation. It's much about developing solutions for water treatment and how to secure drinking water for consumption. There are also associated SDGs that can be addressed under the challenge 2, but the main thing there is the SDG 6. More generally, the proposals are expected to address either one or both of the challenges, and if you look at the call announcement, there are subtopics. There are 2 subtopics under each challenge, and one proposal is supposed to address all the bullet points that's under a subtopic that's chosen for the project. So that means you cannot pick just one bullet point under a subtopic and concentrate the whole project around that. You need to consider all the bullet points that are under a subtopic. The project should go beyond the state of the art for whichever field of research you are working on. You should propose case studies in both European and non-European countries for the project. Consider a gender dimension and and you should encourage international participation in research and innovation. And that means that you should take into consideration there are different ecosystems, different environments in different areas of the world. So developing methods that can be applied in different environments is a good case here for a proposal. Here's an overview of the countries and the funding partner organizations that are part of this call. There are 12 countries, each represented by one FPO. The total budget is a little over 8.5 million euros. This information you probably have seen. It's among the call documents. Let's take a look at the homepage for those of you who haven't been there. This is the homepage for the Water JPI, the front page, what it looks like. When you want to join or send in a proposal for this call, you need to go into this address, waterjpi.eu, and then there are at least two different ways to get into the call page. You can click the joint calls on the tab at the top here, and then you get a list of the different years, and then you select 2017 and you get straight to the joint call page. Or you could just click right here under where the news here about the joint call being opened. There's a direct link there. Then you get to this page. This is the call page. You first get a brief overview of what the call is about, and further the scope is shortly described here, and as well as a planned time frame. And if you press or click this view the list of participating countries, you get this list, which is also found in the call documentation. There were 12 different countries participating. And at the bottom of the call page, you get the call documentation with the links. You have the pre-announcement first. That was launched in June. And then you have the call announcement. That was launched in October. Oops. And that's where you find most of the information you need for writing the application. We also have the national regulations there, where all the 12 countries' different national regulations are being stated or been written out. There's also a pre-proposal template there in the Word format, which is directly, you can just use that template and just write into that document, and that will be the format the pre-proposal should be in. There's also a budget template in Excel format that you also can open and fill out. There are two tabs there. There's one which describes what to put under the different column headings, and then there's the table itself. And then there's a link to the electronic submission platform, which is new for this year. Also, there's the submission platform. We will go through that a bit more closely afterwards. That's run by the ANR in Paris, so they will take care of that when they get there. And then there's a link to the guidelines for the electronic submissions platform, so you have that in written form as well. And there's frequently asked questions for the same platform that can also get here. Okay, in the column announcement, you find these are the most important chapters. We can see introduction, call description, eligibility, funds, application, call schedule, and not least the NCPs, the national contact points in chapter 10. That's it's very important to make sure that you follow your country's eligibility criteria. It's very good idea to do that as soon as possible. The main rules of the eligibility, the main criteria are that each consortium for a project must be composed of at least 3 eligible partners, each of them requesting funding from their respective funding partner organizations from 3 different countries. Eligible institutions are universities, other higher education institutions, public research institutions, private non-profit organizations, and private companies. But this, again, you need to check with the national or regional regulations to see what's applicable for your country. In addition to this, a partner in a proposal is defined as a principal investigator that requests funding, or a principal investigator that contributes with own funds to the proposal. And with the number 2 here, the principal investigator that contributes with own funds to the proposal, that's a partner. But still, you need 3 partners requesting funding to be eligible, as it says in the first point here. So even if this is a real partner, it's not a partner requesting funding. So, but this partner can go along with this with the ones from the first point in the same consortium. I'm not sure if that made any sense, but the most important thing is this first point here about the three partners requesting funding from each of their countries, and then those 3 countries need to be 3 different ones. All proposals should also emphasize participation of stakeholders and dissemination and exploitation of results. Proposals must be received before the deadlines for both the pre-proposal and the proposal. They must meet all formal criteria, and they must, of course, be fully relevant to the scope of the call. As it says, as it's stated in the call announcement, maximum requested global budget, I mean the whole budget per proposal, or they requested, I mean the budget, the project by itself can be bigger, but you cannot request more than €1.5 million per proposal. A project must last between 2 and 3 years, and there are open access requirements for all publications, all scientific publications produced by the projects funded by the call. There's more about the open access requirements in the frequently asked questions leaflet. In addition to the general eligibility criteria, you need to check with your national contact points, see who that is in the call announcement chapter 10, to make sure that you comply with the national or regional eligibility criteria. Yeah, and this goes for every partner in the project, that they need to check for themselves that they are actually in compliance with their national regulations. I mean, they could be quite different between countries, so you need to check with your own country. Yes. Okay, then we get to the electronic submission platform. I'll leave the floor to Nuria, I suppose.
Yes, thank you, Johannes. Hello to everyone. My name is Nuria Ruiz, and I will be your contact point for all the questions related to the submission platform. As already explained by Johannes, in the 2017 joint call webpage, you will find the link to the submission platform, and this link will drive you to the welcome page, where you need to enter your name and the email address. Next slide, please, Johannes. And after validation, you will be asked to accept or decline the collection and processing of your personal data by the French National Research Agency, ANR, which is the one hosting the submission platform. So by ticking and accepting the data protection terms and conditions, you will receive an automatic email, including a password and the link to the authentication page. Next slide, please. Donc, after logging in, you can choose your profile, project coordinator or project partner, and you should click on submit a proposal to create your proposal. After that, you will have access to 7 tabs where you will provide all the information about your project. As you can see, the 2 first tabs are related to the consortium. In the first one, you will provide the information about the members of your consortium, and in the second one, you will provide information about the administrative and financial data of your consortium. The 3 following tabs concern the scientific data of your project, like the acronym, title, public scientific abstract. The scientific document tab will allow you to upload your proposal, and also the annexes, the CVs for each principal investigator, and the budget file. This is the place also to upload any other document you would like to add to your proposal, like, for example, letter of commitment. The tab called Summary Tables will provide you with a general overview of the data that you provided for your project. And the last tab, called Submission of the Project, will allow you to lock your proposal before submitting. This means that all the members of your consortium can see the information about your proposal, but nobody can change this information. And you will find also a section called Checking Fields, where you will see sentences in red indicating that this information must be complete for the proposal to be complete, and sentences in orange which are indicating that some information about the partners or the project should be corrected or complete. Next slide, please. I would like to draw your attention to the second tab called Partner Organization Files. In this tab, you will fill all the administrative and financial data, but in the tab Financial Data, please make sure that you fill properly the 2 fields in the red frame, the full cost and the requested funding for your proposal, even if this information will be provided also in the budget template, which will be uploaded in the scientific document tab. In the 2017 Joint Call web page, you will find a link for the guidelines for applicants. This document explains step by step what you need to do to submit your proposal with the screenshots. So please read carefully this document, and at the end of the guidelines you will find a generic email address that you can see now at the bottom of the screen. So don't hesitate to send your request to this email address, and I will try to answer you as soon as possible. Thank you for your attention, and good luck for the submission. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Miriam. Yeah, I'll dive into some of these documents that's linked to through the website. This is the pre-proposal templates. When you click that, the Word file I was talking about earlier, you get to this. That's I think it's 5 pages or something as it is. Or there's a little explanation of how to fill it out here, and you need to pay attention to especially these things that are pointed out here on this page, which directs how long the maximum total length of 5 pages of sections 1, 2, 3, and that it must be structured according to the headings that are indicated in the proposal template, and that the page size must be A4, margins are set at 15 millimeters. You need to use Times New Roman, 11 points, single spacing, but you can use should use font size 9 in footnotes. These are important to be not to be rejected. This is what the front page looks like, and this is the template. So here you see everything in red here are just guidelines for you, but you leave the black text and the logo here, of course. Okay, here's a summary of what you have to go through and to fill in on the pre-proposal. I'm not going to go through that more now. Okay, so summary of step by step how to do this. I'm sure most of you are probably on your way down this line as it is. But first, you should, of course, check the scope of the call. You should build the consortium. I know there are some people still looking for project partners. I tried to direct them to the Water JPI Researchers Forum on the LinkedIn. That's a discussion forum on the LinkedIn page. I also, if there are specific, if they want to build a consortium with partners from specific countries, I can also advise you to contact the national contact points of those countries. They might know of someone who's looking for project partners as well. So that might also be an possibility. Then you should be very careful about checking the eligibility criteria, and that goes for all members of the consortium, and that goes for the general criteria as well as the national or regional criteria. That means it's very smart to get in touch with a national contact point for your country. But you can also contact us in the call secretariat. I'll give you the email address. It's on the webpage, but it will be presented here a little later as well. Yeah, and lastly, you should, of course, elaborate your proposal for the call. Here's the address to the LinkedIn discussion forum. I'm sure you can find it if you do a search on the LinkedIn page as well. Here's an overview of the steps of the call. This is a two-step evaluation procedure. That means there's a pre-proposal stage and a full proposal stage. In the first pre-proposal stage, which has the deadline of December 11th, you need to provide a 5-page scientific document, and there will be an eligibility check, both generally and nationally, regionally. And those who pass the eligibility test will go through a remote evaluation. And after that, it will be decided which proposals go through to the next round, and that will be you will be notified around mid of April. Those of you who will prepare a full proposal, we need to submit a 15-page scientific document, and during this phase there will be a general document check as well as the remote evaluation. But then, in addition to that, there will be an eco-census evaluation meeting, a panel that will meet up and decide which are the best, highest quality and most relevant proposals. There's a short overview of the two different stages, and as well as the scoring system that goes from 1 to 6, which relates to the wording limited and excellent. The dates anticipated time schedule. This the first one we're looking at now is the 11th of December, submission deadline for the pre-proposal. Then, as I told you, the notification will be around mid-April, and then submission deadline for the full proposal is in 27th of June. In case you don't know that, you probably know, but this the first deadline, 11th of December, that's 1700 hours Central European time. Notification of the final outcome will be go out in September 2018. That's the plan. Okay, that's all we had for the presentation so far. Now we will go through the questions phase. You may then go in. Oops, it's not going to go on there yet. You can go in and press questions. The questions tab, and send in questions, and we will answer them as well as we can. I will try to answer some of them, and then, as we did last time, Dominic and Nuria will fill in when needed. If we see the questions are only shown for me here in Oslo, so I'll have to go through the list from the top to the bottom. I'll try to do this as smoothly as possible. It went fairly well, the previous webinar earlier today. But if I see specific questions that are very specific to national, I might just try to direct you to try to have you contact the NCPs. We will have this open for approximately 1.5 hours, around 1600 Central European time. We will close up. If there are questions still left, then we'll try to answer them by email, or at least we will answer them in a written form and publish them with the rest of the questions from the webinar within a day or two. Everything, both recording of the webinar and as well as all questions and answers, will be made available for download on the website. If you want to get in touch with the call secretariat centrally, that's here in Oslo now, that's Research Council. You can send it to this email, ic4watercall@rcn.no. Thank you, and good luck. At the bottom here, you can see there's the this is the address for the homepage for the Water JPI, and here we also have the email address to the secretariat for the Water JPI as well as for the IC for Water, and both of those are situated in at ANR in Paris, France. It's only the call secretariat that's here in Oslo, but let's head over to the questions here. Okay, we have some questions. Yeah, first question is, well, there's a greeting from Brazil. That's nice. Hello back to Brazil. Nice to see some people joining from there. Question number one then is, will projects under this call be funded 100%, or do institutes require match funding? Thanks. The answer to that is they can be funded 100%, but you may very well, or institutes may very well fund some of the projects themselves. I mean, if the projects need to be larger than the 1.5 million euros, then you will have to bring out some funding yourself. I'll leave it open for my colleagues in Paris to join in if they want to fill in.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon or good morning, depending where you are. It depends also of the eligibility of the cost by the different national funders. So I will take, because it's easier, the French example. So we are funding 100% of the cost for universities, for example, but for companies, depending on the status of the companies, we will pay 50% or 30% of the eligible costs. So for this, you have to refer back to your national counterpoint and to the national regulation of the agencies involved in.
Yes, indeed. Next question is a question on challenge 1. Are those two separate sub-challenges? Like ecosystem services or effective adaptation and mitigation for water, or should they be addressed together under challenge 1? Well, if we go into the to the call announcement, the heading doesn't necessarily cover that covers the whole topic. That's all subtopics under that challenge. But what you need to cover in one project is everything or you need to get into all subjects that's listed under one subtopic. If you choose one of the bullet points under subtopic 1A, for example, then you also need to address the second bullet point under that same subtopic. I hope that answers the question. Please follow up if it didn't. Okay, next one. Do we need to specify case studies for stage 1 or leave it for stage 2? We have, there was a question about that, or we did talk about case studies in the previous webinar as well, and earlier today. And we said that they should be stated, and you should be get in touch with those different stakeholders that can be involved in the different case studies. So so the setting is clear, but you don't need this. You don't need it in a written form or a letter of intent or anything at this stage. You can wait till stage 2. So, but this case studies should be presented at this stage. Next question. In Sao Paulo State, Brazil, according to our funding, FAPESP, the period of the project is 3 years, and according to the joint call, 2 years. Can the project be 3 years? Yes, they can be between 2 and 3 years. So everything from 2 to 3 years is fine. As long as I don't know if there's any specific requirements from the FAPESP that are in the national regulations that restricts project to be exactly 3 years. If it is so, then you need to confer with them to make sure that. But in general, that the general rule here is between 2 and 3 years. Next question on budget. How do applicants of different countries have to consider the budget of their respective countries? You only have to consider the budget within your project. I mean, you don't have to, if I understand you correctly here. As long as all, I mean, if you are from Sweden, I think this is a Swedish attendee here. If you are the only Swedish project partner in your your project, then you need to look at the national regulations for Sweden, and there you can see that the maximum amount per proposal is 400,000 euros. There's a limitation. That's if there's if the coordinator is Swedish. I would contact the national contact point of Sweden in Formas to make sure about this. However, if there are 2, then the total budget from Sweden going into the project is what limits how much can go to each project, not to each project partner as such. But again, try to get in touch with Christina at Formas. Next question. Do projects need to have a partner from industry, or is it optional and maybe dependent on national regulations? As far as I know, I don't think any countries have that in the national regulations, and it's certainly not prerequisite for in general. So they can only be from research institutions. That's but in a case where a natural stakeholder would be industry, it would benefit the project to have one on board. It could influence the evaluation of the project if it isn't there. Okay, could you please confirm that the project proposals must assess all bullet points of at least one subtopic? Yes, I can confirm that. That's true. Is that also the case if we integrate more than one subtopic? it is still true, even if you do that. It will be an evaluation criteria, not an eligibility criteria as such. I mean, if you regard different bullet points under one subtopic and one is totally disregarded, then it will probably pull a proposal down. But if it's discussed and it's going to be part of the project, even if it's not as big as the other bullet point within under the same subtopic, it should be okay. There's another question on the same here. Is that also the case if we integrate? That was already read that. Okay, there's another question. Are UN organizations such as UNESCO or FAO eligible, and are ministries and other governmental institutions eligible? I think there's something about that in the call announcement.
No, that's in the FAQ. So it's in the frequently asked questions.
Oh, that's where it is.
And in fact, it depends of the eligibility of this institution with regards to the funding agency which are participating in the call. So, for example, there is one unit of UNESCO based in France, and this unit of UNESCO is eligible to ANR funds, so therefore it's eligible. As regards with FAO, FAO main organization is based in Italy. Italy is not participating in this call, so it will be difficult. Nevertheless, if I remember well, FAO is not eligible to the Italian Ministry of Research and Technology. So if they have to participate, then it will be on their own cost. For sure, whatever these institutions are, they are in general not counting, if they are eligible under the national funds, they are counting in the eligible partners and in the minimum number of eligible partners. If they are not eligible, then they are not counting in this minimum number. So this applies to the UN institution, all these big international institutions, and it applies also for the Joint Research Center of the European Commission. It's considered as an in-house science services of the Commission, and so the GRC can participate, but only as a partner, only on their own funds, and they are not counting in the minimum of numbers of partners.
Okay, thank you. Next question, what about an associated partner, meaning a partner coming from a non-eligible country that participates with own funding? It doesn't count in the minimum of 3, but is it okay to include her in the consortium? Yes, absolutely. Partner from a non-eligible or non-participating country can definitely be part of the consortium, but doesn't then count in the minimum of 3. That's correct. Next question, if the minimum 3 partners have to apply to their respective funding organizations, is the pre-proposal the same for all of them? Yes, it's a common pre-proposal for the whole consortium. I mean, if there's 3 partners, we're not talking about 3 proposals. It's one proposal with all partners listed, with their own, with budgets for all of them. Only one per proposal. Next question, 3 eligible partners from 3 different countries means 1 partner from each country, or 3 partners? That means one partner from each country. Needs to be from 3 different countries, and needs to be one partner from each of those applying for funding from their respective funding partner organization. So
One thing.
Yeah, that means if you have a consortium with, for example, Sweden, Germany, and France, then you're good. Then there are 3 eligible countries applying for funding from Formas, BMBF, and ANR.
An additional thing is, yeah, I wanted to say is that at least one partner from each country, but you may have several partners from the same country within the national regulations that you can find in the dedicated appendix. So you may have 2 or 3 from one of the countries or several countries. It's up to you.
Yes. Okay, let's go to the next question. What if we end up with a consortium with eligible partners within the total budget and national budgets, but after the first evaluation phase, it turns up that the national budget of the partner exceeds the maximum amount allocated for the said country? For example, 4 partners from Cyprus are members of consortium is requesting 175,000 each, while the max for Cyprus is 400K. Yeah, that will be part of the negotiation after the evaluation phase is done. I mean, if we end up with that we have a list at the end, and then we have to choose among the best. But we may end up in a situations where we get to the end of the funding for one country. But we have a tradition of being quite flexible in such situations. We're trying to fund as many projects as we possibly can in such situations.
And that's also why in the national regulation document, for most of the countries and most of the agencies, you have 2 columns, which are the total amount provided for the call, which is the total budget put on the table by the funding agency. And then there is a second column where you can find maximum amount per proposal, which is the maximum grant request possible for all the partners of this country within a proposal. And so you may see that some countries have made an assessment, and for example, for Cyprus, they have a total amount of 400K euros, and they are limiting the request to 200K euros if there is a Cyprus coordinator, and 175K for a partner. And this is the case in most of the countries, to avoid the situation that is explained in the question.
Yes, indeed. Next question. Can we please have Nuria's contact email for platform inquiries? That's I can put up. Let's see. Yeah, put up that page so you can see that. Here at the bottom here, this IC4 Water Secretariat at Agence Recherche FR. Then you'll reach her. You can also find that among the. She's the national contact point. It's the same address. You can contact her. You'll find that among the documents on the website. Okay. Yes. Yeah. There's some comments, not really questions, but okay. Okay, there's one specific question here. We are worried about the eligibility conditions imposed by the Amazon state funding organization in Brazil. Our local partner told us that FAPEAM, F-A-P-E-A-M, Foundation requires that the Brazilian coordinator must have accomplished their doctorate within the past 5 years. Sounds illogical, as we are dealing with a large proposal with international cooperation requiring larger experience than a 5-year research CV. Is it possible to have a confirmation on that point? I'm afraid I don't know that specifically. You'll have to contact the either the national contact point in Brazil or FAPEAM directly to find out about that. I think that was a bit strange, but I'm sorry, I cannot confirm or.
So could you send Einer one of the email address mentioned by Johannes on the last slide? He will come back on that later on the email address that you can see on the bottom of this slide.
There is an email address in the. I can forward that to you afterwards.
Yeah, but I would like to have the question in total. As I mentioned this morning, I will be meeting some Brazilian colleagues tomorrow in Brussels, and in particular the CONFAP representatives. And that will be nice to have the questions for them, so I could forward this rapidly, as they are in mission here in Europe for a couple of days, and to avoid to delay any answer. So if you can forward, or the attendees from Brazil who send this question could contact me via the email, the generic email address at the bottom of these email slides. I will send this to CONFAP tomorrow.
Okay, great, thanks. Next question. Hello from Sweden. Is it possible to have more than one partner from the eligible countries? Yes, it is. But as I said earlier, you need 3 partners in the consortium that are from different countries. But you can have an additional one from one of the 3 if you are so inclined. Just make sure that that you stay under the limit for the country, the maximum amount per proposal for each country. Is there a limitation in the number of partners applying from the same country? And we were discussing that a bit earlier. Was that a bit different among countries? I hadn't realized that, Dominic. But there were some countries that had a maximum of.
I don't think so. I think that the limitation is coming from the maximum of grant requests per country. As for example, I will take France, for example. We have a maximum per proposal up to 250k euros if you are partners, and up to 300k euros per proposal if there is a French coordinator. It means that if there are 2, 3, or 4 French partners within the same proposal, they will have to stick to this maximum amount per proposal. And I think this is the main limitation for the numbers of partners from one country to be addressed in the proposal. The second one is that if you have to go in the implementation criteria that will be assessed in step 2, as we want to have a real collaborative and integrative project, it means that there is a need of a kind of balance between the numbers of partners, and this could be seen also in a more different way if there are too many partners from one country and less from the others. So really, you have to consider both the maximum amount per proposal by the different countries and this balance in terms of partnership.
Yes, so it will limit itself, I guess, then the number of partners when you have to split the funding among many. Okay, next question here. If we choose the entire subtopic 1A, both bullet points, can we also address one bullet point from subtopic 1B, but not all points? Yes, you can do that. You just need to address all bullet points from one subtopic, and you can pick and choose the rest. Next question. Considering the deadline date and the need to check eligibility of partners, do you think that it's still possible to find partners for this joint call? Yes, I would think so. But again, I would advise to, well, the first thing is probably to go through the LinkedIn page, the discussion forum there. Secondly, if you have specific countries in mind, I would contact the national contact points or other direct links you may have with other research institutions or researchers from other countries that are participating in this call. Yeah, of course I cannot guarantee anything, but
on the LinkedIn Water Research Forum group, we have created a discussion on that, and so far up to now there were 33 conversations around this call, and a couple of the people were looking for partners. So you may join as all for the first contact point within LinkedIn, and then move forward by more bilateral emails. But there are a couple of exchange on that part as far as I can see. And we are receiving a lot of demand for joining the forum group. So I'm guessing that a couple of others will join the discussion also.
I think also I received a couple of emails a few days ago with some, as I act as the national contact point here in Norway, I think there were a couple of Norwegian institutions looking for partners as well. So if you send an email directly to me, I can try to find them and get you in touch with them. Or let you know who they are, so if that's interesting for your project. Okay, next question is how many pre-proposals have been submitted or were submitted last year, and how many projects funded? Well, as you talked about earlier, Dominic, there were about 200 pre-proposals submitted last year.
Yeah.
And was that 59 of them that passed the first stage?
Yes, very good.
I don't remember exactly how many were actually funded at the end.
So, and at the end we had 21 funded. So just to complete the picture, we had a little bit less than 200 pre-proposals submitted. 30 of them were non-eligible. That's why we are a little bit pushing today in terms of the eligibility and to push you to contact your national contact points, because of course you are not running for an evaluation if you are not eligible in one of the by one of the partners. Then 59 invited to step 2 and 21 funding in the end. So it's a ratio of success of around 35% for each of the steps.
Okay. Is there a list of possible partners from each country participating in this call? I'm afraid it's not. The best thing is to go, as said earlier, to go into the LinkedIn page and try to get into the discussions there and see who's looking for partners and what the discussions are about. Okay. Does communication to society also cover initiatives that raise awareness to society beyond the stakeholders of the case studies? Thanks. Yes, I would say it does, especially under the let's see here. Let me check. Too many documents. Yeah, under both challenges, I would say there are. I would say that societal awareness is definitely within. Under both subtopic 1B and subtopic 2B, there are societal elements. Okay. And then there's, oh, that's, hi, Christina, nice to get a question from you. That's not a question, that's an answer actually. It's 400,000 euros if you're also a coordinator and 300,000 euros if you're the principal investigator of a project. Yeah, that's correct. I was looking at that earlier, and the reason I was a bit unclear there was that last line telling about the 300,000 limits for one project. If you're not a coordinator, that was on the next page, so I didn't find it. I'm sorry about that, but Christina is of course correct. 400,000 if you're a coordinator, 300,000 if you're just if you're a principal investigator. Yeah. Or a participant, a project participant, yeah. Okay, and then there's a question in French.
Yeah. We got it here, so I can translate it from French to English. So, as a project participant, should I upload on the submission platform the same description of the proposal than the others submitted by the other members of the consortium, and in particular the PI from Norway? So the answer is clear, is that the coordinator of the application will submit one file for the whole consortium. So each partner does not have to submit this. It's one unique file submitted by the coordinator. And you will not be able to do it.
Yeah. Right. Okay. And the next question is exactly the same, only in English. So I guess you heard the answer to that. Should all partners submit their proposal to their respective funding agencies? No, you should not. It's only the coordinator who sends a proposal to Water JPI centrally through the platform that's been presented here. There's only one proposal per project. Next, if the joint project generates patents or IP properties, who would own it? Okay, that's interesting. I think you need to help me out with this one, Dominic.
There is a unique Water JPI policy on that part, is that the consortium will be the only one owning the IPR generated by the project. So that's why we are requesting for all the projects and the related consortia to have a consortium agreement. And this consortium agreement will have to have at least one chapter about how the IPR will be managed within the consortium for this specific project. So it's quite clear. It's belonging to the consortium. So you will have to go for example, what is the background information that you are providing in the project, what will be generated as additional inputs, additional outputs, and then how these additional outputs will be managed within the consortium. So I think that on the FAQ, there is on the open data, open access, you may find some information, but because we are requesting you to provide some information based on the open data, open access regulation. But nevertheless, under this open access, open data, there is an opt-out option where there are some patents on license issues. So the only thing that we will request you during this call is to inform on open access, open data that you have a license or a patent that has been generated by the consortium for this particular topic. So this should be solved. Okay, and it's in the FAQ in page 5. But nevertheless, we will complete at least that point for sure that you will find it. This is for us the most important is the generation of the new knowledge, and it's up to the consortium.
Okay, thank you. Then there's a couple of questions that have been answered before. That's about a list of possible partners and chances of finding a partner at this stage. Again, I'll direct you to the LinkedIn page or possibly national contact points or directly to other researchers in eligible countries. After the first round acceptance, is the proposal going to be further evaluated nationally? Well, the only evaluation is eligibility evaluation. That's before the scientific evaluation. So there's going to be a meeting after the first round after which we'll decide which project passes on to the second round. But that's not an evaluation phase. That's just based on the outcome of the first round of evaluations.
For sure, within all the calls of the JPI, we are doing everything in common, which means that step 1 and step 2 evaluation are done in common by all the agencies. We are a group of evaluators that have been proposed, so there is no additional scientific or impact or evaluation by the agencies on impact and implementation. Everything is done by our common evaluator panel.
Yes. Next question. Do I understand correctly that total budget of the application should not exceed the maximum budget of the country granting least? No, that's not right. The total budget can always be is the total budget of the project is limited to 1.5 million euros. However, if you have 3 partners from 3 countries that say have a limit of 300,000 to each project, then necessarily you won't get funded more than 900,000 if there are no more than those 3 partners. So so it will be the least of that. What gets to the least amount there? You could send me an email. I could definitely give you an exact answer if you have the countries that you're interested in, how many partners from the different. But you could send me or Christina. I think you are. This is a Swedish attendee here, so I could give an exact answer if you give me the where those project partners are situated. Okay, the next question here is a bit longer. If we invite an associated partner to play a specific role in the consortium, can this partner be budgeted outsourcing a limited amount of funding, 5% of the total budget, from money allocated to one of the eligible partner coordinate institutes? That's the first question, and there's more here, but let's take that one first. Yes, this can be done if it's in line with the national regulations. So that's up to the different countries to decide. But if so, you have to contact the national contact point here to see whether that's an option. Going further here, if we invite an associated partner to play a specific role in the consortium, can this partner be budgeted outsourcing? Oh, this is the same thing, isn't it? Yeah, I think that's just the same thing. That's doubled up. Okay, answer to that then. Okay, next question. When you speak with the Brazilian representatives tomorrow, that was probably for you then, Dominic, and find the answer to the question whether a PI has received a PhD within 5 years, can you make that information widely available? I think there will be several people who are interested in this in terms of working with partners. Did you got that, Dominic?
Yes, I'm suggesting that if I have the email address, I can do that directly to the person interested, but I will publish this on the LinkedIn forum group for sure, and I will that will be the best. And then we will also update this on the FAQ, just to be sure that everybody will get the information. Is that okay? I hope that is okay for your Brazilian contact.
It could be difficult to make this widely available on the webpage because I suppose there might be different rules among all the different organizations that are involved from Brazil, and that could be quite a mess if we were going to put all of that up for all of them. So it might be a good idea to get in touch with the FPO in question specifically. But yeah, as Dominic said, send your email to the IC4 Water Secretariat address, or directly to Dominic. Then, if you have that email address, you probably get answer fastest. Okay. There's another question about a bit confused about the bullet points that should be addressed in the proposal. At the beginning of the question answers session, you said that we have to address all bullet points of any subtopics we chose, and now you just said that we can address all bullet points from one subtopic and address only partially other subtopic. Could you clarify how we have to consider this bullet points in our proposal? Thank you. Yeah. That's one proposal need to take into consideration all bullet points under one subtopic, but can also include a wider area than what's covered under that subtopic, and that may also include single bullet points from other subtopics. It doesn't matter, but as long as you cover all bullet points under one subtopic, you're good. So back to the first where you said at the beginning of the question and answer, you said that we have to address all bullet points of any subtopics we chose. It's not any subtopics we chose. It's at least one of the subtopics, to be more precise, if that makes sense. Okay, next question. Do partners that are not funded but participating at their own expense, do they need some letter of authorization from his or her institution? And not at this stage, but when we get to stage 2, that will be mandatory with that. I'm not sure if a letter of intent or a letter of confirmation is probably the right word here.
In step 2, it should be a letter of commitment. Because, yeah, so if you are planning to have a country not involved in the call and partners from this country, you will have to mention this in step 1. You may have a letter of intent to contribute, but in step 2 it will be mandatory to have their letters of commitment.
Yes. Okay. Next, should the PI invite the other members of the consortium from other countries, as is done for the Age 2020 European projects, Horizon 2020 European projects? Should the PI? Yes, that's doubled up.
Yes, this is the coordinator who creates the proposal and invites the partners of the consortium through the submission platform.
Okay, this is a technical question. Yeah, that's has to do with the submission platform. Okay, thank you. I thought this was about you know, forming a consortium, but yeah. It's a technical term in the submission platform, I suppose. Okay, there's another question here. Could multiple partners fill the call in the web platform at the same time? Okay, so can there be several authors on the same proposal? I guess that's the question here. I would have to leave that to you, Nuria. Is that possible?
So, if we understand well, because it was cut, is the question asking if there are a possibility for the PI and the partners to upload or to feed the proposal, or should it be done by one person? Is that the question?
Yeah, that's as I understand it, yes.
Okay, all the information about the proposal is provided by the coordinator. The partners can modify only the administrative and financial data concerning themselves. All the information about the project is provided by the coordinator.
Okay, thanks. That should be good then. Okay, we're at the end of the list so far. We still have a bit of time left, so we'll leave the line open a little longer, so you can send in questions, still send in questions if you'd like. If you have, if you find out you have more specific questions after this webinar, then again, about the submission platform, use this email here, IC for Water Secretariat at Agence Recherche FR. If you have questions more generally about the call, you can send them to this address, ic4watercall@rcn.no. Yeah, it's hard to know if there are people still, or there are people writing questions at the moment, but it seems like it's stuck. We will, as I said earlier, we will publish the whole presentation and the recording, as well as all questions and answers. I will write out as good as I can, and publish them on the webpage within a day or two. So for both webinars, both one we had earlier today and this one. Yeah, now seems like, yeah, or maybe, okay, there's another question here. Yeah, this is question here. Is there is a letter or authorization from the head of the department needed for the first stage? I'm not sure. Is it you're still there, Nuria? I suppose. Is there? I don't remember if that's a field in the form.
No, it's at this stage, it's the responsibility of the PI to see if it needs to have a letter of consent or a letter of intention from his own institution head. So we are not requesting this. So of course it will be important to check that if it's necessary within an institution, but as funders we are not requesting this. So it's up to the institution, and I've never been informed of having one of the funding agency involved in this call requesting this. But I don't know from which country this question is coming from, but it may be needed to check with the national agency, but I have no idea.
Okay, that's not required for from us then. Okay, I'll give it a few more minutes if you have any more questions. If we won't keep this until going until 4 o'clock, if or 1600, if there is some more questions, but yeah.
So I would like to take the opportunity of that. If there are still some Brazilians people attending this webinar, and if they have questions, they should send it rapidly if they want me to address this tomorrow afternoon in Brussels with the confab. So really, if they can send a detailed question, Johannes will provide us with the question sent online, later on, but if you prefer to detail your question in an email, that will be appreciated, because it would help also the Brazilian funding agency to answer. So in advance, thank you.
Okay, there's another question here. We were wondering if monitoring of water will be welcome for this call. Okay.
Well, monitoring will be, I will say, not the core part of this call.
Yeah, I would agree. It's,
but next year, why? Yeah, it's part of how we can assess, you know, some risk. So this is tools for assessing risk. But for people who are there, it may be useful to know that next year, we announced it in the previous webinar this morning, is that there is another call planned already within the water JPI, which is about the sustainable management of water resources, to be launched in February this year. And within this call, there is a specific subtopic dedicated to tools for sustainable management of water resources. And therefore, if this is the core of your proposal, I may guess that it will be more relevant for the call next year. So, but you will have to connect the monitoring issues and the development of any captors or sensors to the management of the water resources, because it's the tool for managing water resources. Here, I'm guessing it's more something complementing other questions that we want to address.
Yes, another question, which is your advice is then to apply to the call in February 2018, and yes, it would probably be more relevant for this project. I mean, monitoring can be part of a project that fits well here, but you need to really go in and address the bullet points under one of the subtopics given in this call. And none of them are specifically directed towards monitoring, even though monitoring could be an important part of a project that addresses one of the subtopics here. But yeah, it needs to be a bit more than just monitoring. Okay, there's more questions about the subject of this, about censoring, optical censoring of quality. Yeah, I mean, this could be it could be, I guess this could be related to maybe the subtopic 2A, perhaps part of the subtopic 2A method for such a project. I'm not sure about the 2018. I guess none of us are exactly what that will be like, but it will probably be more related directly to what you're looking into. But I would take a closer look at the subtopic 2A. I think that's closest in this call to this particular subject of monitoring. So you can see if you have a chance of developing the project into addressing those 3 bullet points under the subtopic 2A, then I think you could fit within here. Okay. Let's see, there's a few new questions here now. If we apply for the current water JPI call, could we still apply for the coming one since we won't have the outcome of the proposal yet? I don't think there's anything against that, so you could definitely apply for both. Yes. Countries involved will be the same. If you mean by that all countries involved or all project partners involved are from the same country, then that would not be eligible. You need partners from at least 3 countries requesting funding.
And for sure, yeah. For each call, we have different funders and we have different eligible partners. I will take an example again, is that this year we have Germany involved in the funding organization. It will not be the case next year. So the German researchers will have to come next year on their own funding and with a letter of commitment. So the key message for you is that each call within the water JPI is specific. It's on the volunteer basis of the funding agency, so they are discussing and they are assessing if they want to join the call, depending of the topic, depending of the type of research we are proposing. And each call has its own list of funders. A lot of them are common, I would say between 2017 and 2018, but there are some differences. So depending on where you're coming from, you may be eligible for both or eligible for one of them.
Yes, okay. Then there's a question about are estuaries or covered by this call in addition to freshwater environments? For example, taking into account the continuum freshwater to estuaries. I have to admit, yeah, I didn't know exactly where the limit goes there towards JPI oceans, but I guess that's the estuaries are covered by us, and then JPI oceans are taking the all marine environment.
So what we have said is that we can work on the transitional waters, but we will not take on board the marine waters. So estuaries are in.
Yeah, right.
Because they are considered as a transition and transitional waters. But if you are going for coastal areas and marine environments, it's a no.
Yeah. I guess it could arise a question of where does the transitional waters end and where does the marine environment start? But again, if this is a question about going from freshwater into brackish water, I guess we would be well within. what this call covers. Country. Yeah. Okay. There's another one for the list of partners from. It's probably related to the previous one. Last question: country involved will be the same. We have in the consortium they have Brazil, Egypt, Norway, Canada, and France. Then Canada is not among the partners here, so a Canadian partner will have to participate at their own cost, while the 4 others are eligible: Brazil, Egypt, Norway, and France. So they can apply for funding. But nonetheless, if Canada is participating at their own expense, this would be and you keep within the limits, that would be an eligible consortium. Okay, there's another question here. A subject about water quality for aquaculture is eligible? Question mark. I guess it could be considered maybe an ecosystem service by providing the environment for, I mean, you're talking about fresh water or maybe into brackish water aquaculture then. But
yeah,
it's not really. This is about water quality for aquaculture, and that's a bit on the side actually. So it needs to that cannot be the core of the project.
No, the challenge one is about multiple pressure. So yeah. It means that we will need to see what are the pressures on the water resources.
Yeah.
So
you need to bring in more.
Yeah.
More factors than just water quality, and if you go down that road, then you need the risk assessment part as well. Both those 2 bullet points under subtopic 1A. But if you can make the project into something like that, it would be fine. But the subtopic 1A reads assessment of multiple pressures, and within that hydromorphological changes, anthropogenic pollution, biological contamination and natural hazards, etc. Effects on ecosystem and ecosystem services, including but not limited to, and then we have the 2, assessing the vulnerability and resilience of ecosystems to multiple pressure factors and assessing risks related to multiple pressures on ecosystems. So it would definitely have to be include more than just water quality monitoring in river and its effect on aquaculture. I mean, aquaculture is could be considered an ecosystem service, or the river and the environment could be considered an ecosystem service for the aquaculture. But since this is about multiple pressures, you need to bring in more factors. Okay. There's another question here. According to the Brazilian guidelines from FUNCAP, it is said all documents shall be annexed as PDF files in the platform of Montenegro during submission. Does this mean that there must be another submission other than that on Agence Recherche FR, and no, it doesn't. There's you're only supposed to send one for this specific call. I would, however, I would contact FU and CIP and to check what they mean. I would guess this is about national calls. These are guidelines for national calls. As they're part of a joint call, there's only one submission platform, and we're taking care of the evaluation. And there will be an eligibility round before we have the evaluations, but that will be of the documents that we receive here. So
the only thing is that what I'm understanding from your question is that the Brazilian state agency from I can't remember, this particular state is maybe requiring that the same file that the one submitted on the French Research Agency submission platform should also be sent to them in order to feed their own system. But that would be a question that I will ask tomorrow to the Brazilians. But it's just to inform them that you have been submitted a proposal within the call. But what you may have to know is that all the agencies, including all the FAPs from Brazil, will have access to the platform, to the INR platform, and they will have all the information that you are submitting also available online. So they will have access to everything when they have an applicant from their own state.
I would suggest then that you send an email to Nuria, and then she can ask tomorrow and then give you a definite answer. Or probably, I'm not sure if there are any FU and CIP representatives there, probably just from Confap, I suppose, but still, we could bring it closer to the definite answer to that question. Okay, then that was the last question so far. Okay, we still have around 30 people online. Quite a few have logged off now, but if there are no more questions, there haven't been any new questions coming up the last 3 or 4 minutes. So I guess we could stop here and ask you to direct further questions either to the ICF4 water call address that you can see on the screen, the rcn.no email address, or about the submission system to the ANR in Paris. Yeah, it seems like there are no more questions showing up, so I suppose we could just leave it there. Thank you, everyone, for showing interest in coming up with very good questions. I wish you good luck with preparing your proposals, and hope to hear back from you in the future. Okay, bye-bye all.